Devlog number 6. So I didn't have nearly as much time over the last week as I would have liked to work on this game. A whole lot of other stuff came up, but I did get a few things done. So if I were to go in here, the battlefield grid is now visible on this screen. So encounter 3 is versus 3 imps. If I add those, they go to their default positions, and this is actually editable now. So I can change the position of where people are on the battlefield. So let's say I were to put the warrior up front, just give him some basic stuff to do, and mage something to do too, sure. Let's have you cast fire on everybody. Or everybody in that row at least. I don't yet have an interface for selecting the battlefield target here, the fourth item there, so it just defaults to the first one it can find. So this will just target the first row. I am not happy with the design of this just overall. The grid kind of seemed like an okay idea at first. But the longer this has gone on, the more unwieldy it's gotten. I have this configured to have only 3 slots, which is like ridiculously few. And with my UI accommodations, I can't like input a very complicated sequence of... This doesn't fit in the frame. Oh no, this is off by a pixel. Not the thing to worry about though when I want to redesign the entire thing. Anyway, yeah, so making this 1 cell taller would just, you know, make it fit even less in the bounds that it has, and I need to redesign this entire thing. Like, there's a feeling that I get of just rightness when I know I have the design of something like this right. This does not give me that feeling even slightly. So this entire thing is getting redesigned somehow. I don't know if I'm going to go ahead and put... what I'm thinking is, instead of targeting a particular square on the battlefield, you might want to actually target a specific champion. Like, these imps will decide, well, we see a warrior, we're going to focus on him. Or, you know, if you put this guy up front, they'd say, hey, that's an easier target, let's focus on that one. And, you know, if people move around or if somebody dies, you'd want to be able to still focus on the same one. If you have, like, a particularly dangerous one you want to kill or, like, do some kind of debuff to. Anyway, so maybe you could target both a space and a champion. I don't know, but this is ripe for a redesign. Anyway, but let's go into the battle here. I want to make sure you survive for a little bit longer. So use that armor. So you're going to just attack, you're going to just fire. Okay, so another thing I did... I hadn't actually talked about this before, but I had this plan all along where when a row... this is a row, this vertically oriented thing. I'm sticking out that terminology, I think. I think it can be made to work, but I want to change the presentation here a little bit. Anyway, so much to do, so little time. Oh, right, I added this thing. So the actor is highlighted in yellow and the targets are highlighted in orange. This is why I gave the mage a target of everybody there. So warrior does that as before. Mage's turn, your target is everybody. So all of these little orange thingies. So you can see exactly who's doing what there. So imp does that, imp does that, imp does that. Okay, so one of them died. So what's going to happen here is the imp... Oh, what's going to happen here is they're actually all going to die, aren't they? No, I will win this battle, but not before my warrior dies. Yeah, okay, so this imp gets to kill the warrior on this turn. Right, so when all champions have either vacated or been defeated in the front row, or the front however many rows there are, because you could have more back here and have people move farther back if they have enough range, what's going to happen, and what does happen now, is that team loses that ground. So essentially the battlefield collapses forward. So this imp's... ability, the attack ability... Oh no, I don't have the range listed here. Ooh, I have to change that. Okay. The attack ability has a range of only 1. Doesn't show. I'll definitely fix that pretty much immediately. But yeah, so player team lost 1 row of ground. If I step forward, on the next turn, that's just gone, and the previous rows shift forward to fill the space. So that will allow anybody who's up front to reach anybody who's in the back if they take out everybody in the row they're currently on. This has a lot of implications, but I'm pretty sure it is what I want to do. Just sort of represents that, you took out the front line, so these are advancing and taking over your space. You can do it to them too if you have an enemy team that has multiple rows on it. Anyway, oh man, someday I'll do something about that text. Anyway, so that's what I've done inside the game. Now, I was talking about this showcase scenario thing that I wanted to do. I added a quit button here, by the way. That's new. Haven't built it yet. One, because there wasn't a lot of time, and two, because I got this idea that I think it might be fun to actually do it together. So let's actually build a showcase scenario together, and you can see the process of what it takes to put together one of these things. So I'm going to open my current test scenario as a reference. So I have no scenario editor right now other than just this JSON file, so I'm going to have to type this all in. There's a lot of structure in here. This is a large file. Like, all of this is specified for that one test scenario. There's some unused stuff in here. Not a whole lot, though. Like, most of this is actually relevant. So we're going to have to do a lot of typing. I think it'll be simpler to just copy and paste and delete some stuff and fill it in. So yeah, let's start by just here. Let's start by taking this test scenario and turning it into essentially an empty scenario. I know that's a number that I want, so I'll just put that in now. So delete everything that's here, and we'll build it up from scratch so we can see what's going on. I want to load this mostly empty scenario just to make sure. So I don't have the game like listing all the JSON files in a directory and just loading whatever's there. I do want to do that at some point, but it doesn't right now. So I'll just have to compile this in. But that's fine. Yeah, so stuff like loading all the scenarios in a directory would go along with scenario editor. So there's spells. I have kind of a loose outline for what I want to do with this scenario. We will not be finishing this showcase scenario today. Just going to get a basic skeleton up and running so I can show you what that's going to take and where it's going. No challenges will be there. Not going to do any... actually, I'll probably do one... Well, no, I don't need to do a puzzle. I can just do one encounter. Alright, so that'll be the plan. Okay, so empty scenario would look something like that. Alright, so let's go through this field by field. Format version, that's just telling me about this file format. So it checks when it loads the file, is this number something I recognize? So for example, a later version of this game might up its recognized version to 1. If that says 1, then I say, okay, so I know how to load format version 1. Maybe it's looking for this other thing here. But format version 0, so I would know if I'm loading an old scenario to not try to load that field from the file. Anyway, right now there's only one version of this. It's 0. Format type, Foresight Fight scenario. This is just for self-identification to make sure that I'm not like loading some other JSON file. Anyway, so this is preamble. Identifier. Everything in this game has an identifier, pretty much. This is how the scenario file internally refers to its own stuff. So this is not specifically human readable. You'd pretty much never see this in the game when you're playing the scenario, maybe when you're in the editor. But let's just call this showcase. Name. This one is human readable. So this is showcase scenario. Sure. Oh, right, and you'll need one of those, won't you? All right. Showcase.atlas. Okay, so what this refers to... is that what I called... I just called it showcase. Let's change that identifier so it matches the file name. There's nothing enforcing that, but it's just something I would like. All right, so test scenario and test scenario 2 are there. All right, so Atlas, that is the Texture atlas. I showed this a couple of times ago. Where's the best window to start with for this? I guess you. Here. No, I have... Oh no, what's going on? Okay, this is resources, that's resources. So this is actually generated. So the test scenario atlas... Oh boy, how did I do this? Open with GIMP. Eventually. So that's all the icons and stuff that are used for like statuses and equipment slots and things like that for this. So I'm going to try and avoid drawing too many icons today just for this example. I might do one or two. But this is generated from... I'll have tools for doing this probably inside the game once the scenario editor is in. But let's just make a copy of test scenario texture packer config. So this is a configuration file for my texture packer that takes individual pings and packs them into this texture atlas that the game actually loads. So this is going to be generated showcase scenario atlas. Showcase .ping, that's fine. Showcase scenario.atlas, sure. That's a little redundant, so we can just do that. Great. Stuff you don't need to worry about. Wait, why is this? I guess that's fine. Showcase scenario.atlas. Why do I have this in here twice? I don't know. Anyway, don't worry about it. All right. So then all the images I'm going to want to go in here. So again, let's make this empty for now. But I will want some stuff in there. Okay. So in my make file, I'm going to have to put some stuff so that it will actually run the texture packer on that file. I think I have all these down here. Yeah, so test scenario.atlas. Put this alphabetically. So the target is this file in build generated showcase scenario atlas.ping. This is also a target file. So these two files will be generated from this command. Showcase scenario atlas.ping, showcase scenario.atlas. The atlas file, I did show this before. Build generated test scenario.atlas is just a bunch of coordinates. Not at all human readable, but this tells you the game what the bounds of each one of these is and what its name is. So auto-generated file, don't mess with it. Just gotta make it so that it'll know how to draw stuff. All right, so texture packer config showcase scenario.json. That's what I called this. So right, these are the target files. That's what will be generated from this command. This is the dependency. So whenever this file has a modified date newer than the one that was generated, that'll get rebuilt. Or if this these don't exist, which is currently the case. Texture packer dir. So yeah, I'm just invoking my texture packer tool. Don't worry about that with these parameters. Anyway, so these files will now be generated. The other thing I need to do in here is to, oh boy, right, these are all my source files. Where are my resources? Right, so audio resources, non-audio resources. So resources main app includes showcase scenario atlas, showcase scenario.atlas, and the scenario file itself. All right, so showcase scenario.json is in resources. That's where we're going to be working today. These are generated from this file and images that I list in here. So we'll get to that. Okay. So right, everything has an identifier. That's the identifier. That's the atlas. We took care of that. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order because encounters depends on a whole lot of other stuff here. Not going to fill that in yet. Puzzles can stay empty. Challenges can stay empty. So champions. Champions are going to be, so let's refer to this. What does a champion look like in this file? Now, if I want to, instead of referring to an existing file, just see how I'm loading these, I would go to my scenario data IO source file, which is a huge, horrible mess. Like, don't try to read this. It's very large. There's way too much of it, and yeah, IO code is always very messy. But for example, let's see. So this would start with, that's all commented out. So the main entry point to this is in here somewhere. Boy, that's a huge function. Scenario data, load serialized data. So that gets deserialization context, which is how it, let's not talk about all this stuff. Anyway, but it does stuff like read string identifier. So I would know that at this point in the file, you are looking for a string called identifier in the main dictionary here. Then immediately after that, you will read a string called name, and that's going to this field of the scenario structure that I'm reading here. Anyway, so I can refer to this if I need to know what the code does that loads the file, but it's a whole lot easier just to use this as an example because this is already set up with all the what it needs for this. So anyway, a champion looks like what? It's in here somewhere. Those are champions. Okay, so a champion has an identifier first. All right. So I'm going to have a champion called Protector here. Let's just copy these fields and fill them in. It'll be a little, whoops, easier than typing them all in. Not going to give these people names or anything, just name them after their role for now. All right, so here I'm referencing an icon. The icon is something from this set of images. So if I look at, where's my other one of these? Here in generated, resources, texture packer config. Okay, so this lists out, I have icon shield somewhere, apparently not there. So if that's in, no, it's this. This is what I want. Icon shield.ping. So I just happen to know that I do have an icon called icon shield.ping in my resources. I've already drawn that one. It looks like, open with this. It looks like that. So this will be the champion icon for the Protector. Just temporary. I'll probably draw something else for it. This card changes. I didn't make any changes. Why are you asking me? Anyway, so that's the first icon in the icon library for this. Stats. Okay, so we need to fill something in before I can meaningfully do anything with those numbers, but it's an array of integers. Oh, look at all those zeros. No, that makes sense. Absorbs. This will be going away, but I'll just put one false in there for now. Abilities. We'll get there. Equipment slots. None. For now, I'm going to do this without any equipment slots. Item slots. None. Spell slots. None. Resources. Okay, so this is what fills in a champion record. So basically a description of what makes up a particular champion. Then I can create instances of that with different equipment equipped and starting resource values and stuff. Anyway, so let's start with these. Health and energy. I should put these in a better order, but then again, I won't be editing these files manually too much, so it doesn't really matter that much. So a resource. Health and energy are resources. I'll just stick with those two. I don't have anything too out of the ordinary planned for this yet. All right, so I can probably mostly just copy and paste these. Okay, so health's name, that's its identifier, that's its human readable name. Icon is icon health, which I'm just going to copy out of here. Icon health is the heart. We've seen it plenty of times. I like to alphabetize these. Could put them in any order. Doesn't actually matter. Default state, full. Now this is one that I would actually refer to scenario data IO for. So if I search for a default state in here, that's reading an enumeration. So if I were to look in shared definitions.h, which I showed once before, big messy file, but has all the constants of like all the important game mechanics. A resource. Where is this defined? Shouldn't it be like there? I guess it's further down. Apparently I don't know how this file is organized. Apparently this file is not really organized. Okay, so there are only two valid defaults. It's either full or empty. So the default state of health is full. When you come into the battle, initially, you will be at full health, unless otherwise specified in the encounter data. This is a vital resource, so if it drops to 0, then that champion dies. If there is an ability that can spend this resource, which there won't be here, right, so the 3 valid values for that are above 0, to 0, and below 0. So if I had like some ability that cost health to use, I can specify whether, you're just not allowed to spend enough to kill yourself, or let's say it's energy. You can spend exactly to 0. You don't have to keep at least a little bit in your bar. You can go all the way down. Or you can spend more than you have. So, you'd sacrifice yourself to do a big expensive ability that would deal you way more damage than the amount of health you have. You'll die, but the rest of your party gets some huge buff or something. Anyway, but it doesn't matter because I'm not making any abilities that spend health right now. But I'll leave it at below 0, so just in case you want to, you're at 1 health, you have an ability that costs 10 health. You can use your big ability and, change per turn. I'll leave that on 0. I'll talk about it when I get to energy. Capacity formula. What did I decide I wanted to do with this? Okay, so, oh boy, this is all very interconnected. I could leave it at health max, but let's rename it just for fun. Okay, so let's take a detour and do the capacity formula. I'm already in a detour, but let's take a second detour. So stats. This is actually very simple. Stats for this scenario are going to just be vitality. So that's what'll show up on the screen. Icon is icon health, that's fine. Attack, by convention I just use lowercase with underscores for identifiers. You can put whatever you want in here. It doesn't care. You can use spaces, you can use, anything you want. But there's not much reason to. So this will just be a very simple stat for strength of attack. Icon can be... Do I have something appropriate for this? Icon fist, sure. That'll be what strength was here. Alright, so you need icon fist. I won't go and look at every icon, I just happen to know that I already have these. So I'll pull from my existing library. And... oh. Defense. Kind of overloading the shield icon a little bit. I have that used for a lot of stuff, but that's fine. So fist, health, and shield are the 3 icons used here. All right, so these are the stats. Every champion in the scenario will have some value for these. Before I come back to resources, I'm going to come back from a detour here and say the protector will have default stats, well not default, base stats of vitality, I don't know, let's say 10, just as a test value. Attack will be, I don't know, 1. Defense will be 1 for now. So, right, you'll take, well, I haven't made a formula to actually make these do anything yet. So these are just arbitrary numbers. But with your vitality of 10, that stat, right, these are just in the order that they're specified here. So I just know that the first one references vitality, second one references attack, third one references defense. It was just a little simpler to do a list of integers here than something like that. You know, I have my reasons. So anyway, that's how stats are specified. So the health, I'm realizing just how complicated this is. Like, I've probably lost everybody. You know, don't worry if you're not following me completely. If you have to just like glaze over things, it'll make more sense as we work with the things more. Anyway, so health resource has a capacity formula. This formula tells me that when this champion spawns into the battlefield, how do I decide how much maximum health they have? And it can be as simple as just your maximum health is whatever your vitality stat is. You could totally do a thing where, like, every point in vitality is worth 10 health. I could just do this and then, like, multiply by 10 after you add the vitality. But, you know, there's no particular reason to do that. So I'll just set the vitality to 10, and that'll be what the health max is. But you can make this something more complicated if you wanted to. Color? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so color determines, that's the RGB value for this bar here. So you know what? Let's change it. Let's just do something simple and ugly and make that pure red. We'll see how that looks. It doesn't look great. I have some thoughts about color choice. I'm not going to give them right now because this is already pretty complicated. Okay, and then some sounds and visual effects. So when you, here, let's just remove you, give you a fire spell. So those determine, when the mage starts its turn, you're going to do that little inward star effect right there, this one, and play that sound. So that is the sound of spending the energy resource, which is specified here. So charge spell is the sound and is also happens to be the identifier of the visual effect. I just won't bother putting any sounds or visual effects in for that for now, just to keep things simple. I'll leave this running just in case we need to point at it for examples. Okay, so same stuff for energy. Name is energy. Icon is icon energy, so I need that. Icon energy is here. Default state is full. I could have this default to empty, but my plan for, and just have it like charge up slowly so you can use the stuff. But my plan for what I want to do here, will have it default to full, is not vital. So if your energy drops to 0, you don't die from it. And if you spend it, you can spend it all the way down to 0, but not past. You have to have energy to do stuff. You have to pay the full cost, but you don't have to keep some in your bar. However, I am going to make this charge by 1 per turn. So this is a different sort of resource than the energy in this test scenario. I should give it a different name. I don't know what to call it. Naming things is hard, so I don't want to think about it right now, but I'll come up with a different name for this in between. I think this is going to be a multi-week thing where we slowly build up this showcase scenario and then see what it does. So I just want to get the most basic stuff up here so I can just load it into the game and sort of see it. And even that's pretty ambitious for today, but let's do it. All right, so this will charge by 1 every time for every turn. I can also make it discharge by 1 if I wanted. You know, you'll lose energy every turn, but no, my plans are to have this go up by 1. Capacity formula. There's no actual difference between add and assign in this particular case because I talked about formulas a little bit. The difference is if you have an input value, then add will add to that input value, assign will overwrite it. But this formula is always called with an input value of 0. So, add and assign are the same thing. So just to have them be the same thing, we can do that. So you're going to add a constant of 5. So everybody will always have an energy capacity of 5. There isn't a stat that can change that. It's just that's how much you get. That's how much you have to spend. That's your main resource. Let's make this green. Full saturation green. It's going to look terrible, but at least you'll be able to see the effect. Spent sound, nothing. Whoops. So no effects for that. That's fine. If you're curious about the sound identifiers, so I had that set to charge spell. Those are just determined by my sound files that I have in my resources here. So audio has... Whoa, Windows, why are you trying to do stuff? Please don't. Okay, well that's annoying, but I can still see the file names. So charge spell here. If I double click this, what would it open it with? I don't trust you. VLC, sure, that's fine. Okay, so anyway, that's what the contents of that file is, and that's referred to in my make file here, this big list of sound effects. So that's just set at compile time. Maybe someday you'll be able to have particular sounds come along with your scenario, just like you can for icons. Haven't thought that far ahead. This right now is the first I've ever thought about it. The visual effects are specified in the scenario, so I have a list of these. They're sort of compiled in, but there are templates. So the charge spell visual effect. Let's not get into this. Let's just leave it blank, and I won't talk about that right now. So there will be no star effect like that for spending whatever I rename this resource to. Okay, so the resources are specified. The stats are specified. Those parts are done. So now we can get back to the champions. So Protector here has a shield, doesn't absorb anything. This has to do with elements. We'll get there. Also, when I have properties, this is just going to go away, but I haven't implemented properties yet. No equipment slots, no item slots, no spell slots. So only abilities. Okay, and resources of health and energy. All right, so other than listing out some abilities, this is a complete champion record. I want your ability to be... let's leave this blank for now. In fact, how much more of this do I have to fill in to get it into the game? Let's see what happens if I just put this in exactly as it is. No encounters, no puzzles. Stuff will probably kind of break. I should put in a little, like, nothing encounter just so I can see, like, the screens, because, like, if there are no encounters, then this list would be empty, this list would be empty, and I wouldn't be able to proceed beyond this screen to, you know, this screen or this screen. So I need at least one encounter or puzzle here. So let's put just the most basic... hold on, is there anything else I absolutely need here? Nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. I do need a starting inventory, so you'll start with 1 protector. No equipment, spells, items, lore, 7 battle action slots. Oh, and you need a speed formula. Not going to do any speed manipulation here. Just everybody gets speed 1, so nobody changes their speed. So everybody takes a turn when, you know, in turn order exactly. We can change that later, but I'll leave it as it is for now. So no equipment, no spells, no items, no abilities yet. We'll get there. So nobody will be able to do anything, but that's okay. I just want to see this load. So encounters, let's just copy a real basic one. Encounter 1, that's fine. We'll keep that name. Party size max 1, that's fine. 1 row there with only one thing in it. Actually, I want to do some stuff with larger battlefields. This will pair well with the work that I did on the this grid. So we'll make everything 3x3 for now. So you can see what that looks like. Champions. I've only defined one here. It is protector. Have plans for 2 others, but not today. So row 0, position 1. Sure, let's put it front and center. Actions. I'm pretty sure I can just input this and nothing else. Let me just check that against a champion that I know waits in the puzzles. Yeah, type is wait. So when my IO code runs into type equals wait, it knows it doesn't need any more parameters. You know, wait doesn't take a target. It doesn't refer to an ability or item. It's just the action of do nothing. So it just stops reading there and goes on to the next action. So the only champion in this encounter is going to sit there and wait forever. Loop index 0, no equipment item spells, nothing special for resource values. If I wanted to, I could say, you know, just for fun, let's say you start with only 5 health and 2 energy. So you'll be a little bit tired and at half health. No rewards, nothing to give out. Okay, so I think this is enough to be able to load this and see it in the game. One last thing. Again, since this is all hard-coded right now, I just have to add this to the list of files that I attempt to load in my built-in scenario files at startup. So like this loops through that. I have this code set up so that only this array needs to change. You know, it figures out its size. It creates a deserialization context for the JSON file, finds it in the resources, loads it, adds it to the list of available stuff. Anyway, so let's see if this works. For some reason, make on Windows takes a really long time. I need to do some figuring out like what it is that's taking so long here. And it spits out a lot of information. This is all potentially useful. I read this sometimes, not most of the time. Permission denied. Oh, right, the program's running, so it can't replace the running executable. Try again. Did I get all my stuff right? It's doing stuff. Compiling several configurations, multiple architectures. I should probably just have it compile like debug Win64 only. That'd speed this up a bit on its own. All right, so what did it do? So here in build, generated, there is now a showcase scenario atlas.ping. Oops, that's not the right thing to open it with, but we could see it for a second. Which does indeed have... Why is the star in there? Did I put that in the configuration? I did. Okay, icon energy is in there. All right, so the 4 icons that I specified are in this atlas, and the accompanying file will specify where to get to them. This will be almost readable at this size. No, not really. Right, those are 15 by 15, so they don't pack into a power of 2 size thing. Exactly. Anyway, so yeah, energy, fist, health, and shield are there. In the resources directory, next to the executable, which is what this will be reading when it starts up, there will now be showcase scenario.json. So that's the thing we just wrote. The generated atlas ping, which is just copied from intermediate, and the atlas. So if I run this, oh no, it crashes. Okay. Strange quirk of the MinGW build system that I'm using here. 64-bit executables don't get any printf output. So I have to run the 32-bit one if I want to see this error that it's going to tell me about. Unknown formula operator assigned. Excuse me? That's totally an operator. What do you mean? I mean, I can avoid that, but I disagree with this. I mean, I can't really argue, but why did that not... Formula operator assign. What do you read that as? Do I call... What? Oh. Well, check it out. I found a bug. So I do not have my IO code set up to be able to read, whoops, the assign operator. Let's actually fix that bug right now. So if you find, right, so I actually want add to be down here. if you find the string of assign, this is read formula. So this is doing the I/O. Don't worry about any of the rest of this. I'm not worrying about it, not paying attention to it. I just know that you're looking for the string assign, and then that will be formula operator assign. This is a file that needs unit tests. They would catch things like this. Anyway, so I should have fixed that bug. That simply, I think. Recompile. Right, so when it hits an I/O error on one of the built-in scenarios, it just reports what the deserializer was unhappy about, and it just exits the executable. So that's why you saw the window come up for just a brief moment and disappear. It might have other things to complain about in the scenario file I wrote, so let's do this on the command line again. Yeah, I need to get rid of some of these. I don't need to build for release or profile when I'm doing this, but I do need the 32-bit one. I guess I could ditch the 64-bit one for now. Okay, it runs. So it runs, and there's a showcase scenario. Cool. I can select it, go to encounter 1, has no rewards, nothing. All right, cool. So here's a 3x3 battle grid. Protector is your enemy, has 5 health. Stats are 10 vitality, 1 attack, 1 defense. This is, don't worry about that. That's going away. No equipment slots. Okay, so it does handle that correctly. And is going to wait forever. In my inventory, I have 7 battle action slots. And protector here. So your stats are the same, because I didn't change them. Okay, this isn't handled too well. This one doesn't know what to do with no equipment slots. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so the thing to fix. I mean, a window with nothing in it isn't really an invalid response, but it looks ugly, so I'd rather have, this. Anyway, so add to party. No equipment slots, nothing to equip, same stats, actions. Right, so this is a big action grid. I can add 7 wait commands. Let's see what that looks like. I can put you... Oh no. Alright, so something's wrong with my mouse events there. I can click that. Oh, now it works. Oh dear, there are some problems here. Okay, so some debugging to do there. Anyway, let's put you right in front of that. All right, so that's what it looks like to have red health and green energy. Actually, surprisingly not as bad as I thought, but still kind of gaudy. Anyway, so everybody's just going to sit there and wait forever. Even with 7 battle action slots, this is still overflowing over here. Yeah, part of the reason I need to redesign this is because the UI just can't accommodate what I want. Oh, you're gaining energy. Yeah, okay, so you can see you started with only 2 energy. So every time you take your turn, at the beginning you gain 1 energy until it fills up. Okay, great. So yeah, this is a stalemate. Nobody can ever win. I can let this play out forever. All right, cool. So that's loading a very basic scenario. Yeah, so this should be fun. So next week, let's fill this in with... Yes, please stop. You don't need to do this. Nobody will ever get anywhere. Next week, let's fill this in with some more real stuff. I know what I want to do with additional champions, how I want to set up the encounters, and we can do some puzzle design and things like that. This ought to be neat. And I'll keep working on features and stuff like champion properties, make this work a little better. It's kind of a mess. Anyway, cool. Yeah. So I'll see you next week to keep on building out this test scenario.